Let's fill out this form. For first name, let's do Peter. Peter's favorite vehicle is trucks. And of course we want Peter to be happy. Now using JavaScript, we can get the current values of these inputs from the DOM. For example, see this input element has an ID of fname. In Chrome, we can simply go to the console and evaluate fname, and we get the element logged back at us. Inputs have a value property on them. So if we evaluate fname.value, we get Peter. Peter is the current value of this input. Moving on to the dropdown, we can see the select element also has an ID of FabVehicle. So if we evaluate FabVehicle.value, we get trucks. Trucks is the currently selected option. Checkboxes are slightly different because their value never changes. So let's get the isHappy ID and evaluate isHappy.value. We get on. And as we said, if we uncheck happiness and evaluate again, we still get on. So we need a different property, this time the checked property. If we evaluate isHappy.checked, we get false. Make Peter happy again, evaluate, and now happiness is true. So getting the values from the DOM is not hard at all, but with React, we don't want to go to the DOM fishing for values whenever we need them. With React, it makes more sense to keep the current values of the form inside application state. That way, any corner of the application that might be interested in these values might use them right away without having to go to the DOM fishing for them. This is how it will work. If I go inside the input and change something, for example, by typing the letter A change event will fire, with this input element being the target. We can attach a handler to this change event by typing onChange, camel case, and providing a callback. This callback takes an event object. So let's give ourselves a block of code and add a breakpoint right inside of there. We will open DevTools, and this is how it will play out. I will focus the input and change something by typing the letter A. We trip the debugger on line 11 so we can inspect the variables that are in scope. If we hover over event, we can see all the things the event object receives. For example, the target of the change event, which of course is the input with an ID of fname. If we expand the target of the event, buried somewhere in there is the value of the input, which is the string A. Let's allow execution to continue. Come here and type B. Because looking inside these objects is rather tedious, we will have the debugger help us a little bit. Let's move to the right-hand section and collapse all of these except for the watch section, and we will add an expression there, event target.value, which currently evaluates to AB. That is the current value of this input at this point of execution. Let's allow execution to continue, type C, and now the value of the target is ABC. So this right here on line 11 is the opportunity to update application state with the current value of this input. It works in a similar way with a dropdown. The dropdown can have an onChange handler, which receives a callback that takes an event object, and let's plant a breakpoint right inside of there. Let's change our favorite vehicle to be trucks, and we can see the value of the target, in this case the dropdown, is trucks. Let's allow execution to continue and do the same thing for the checkbox. The checkbox can take an onChange, and we'll do the exact same thing. But this time, we're not interested in the value of the target. We're interested in the checked property. So we will add that expression right in there. Event target.checked. Change to happy, and we can see the checked property of the target is true. Allow execution to continue. Uncheck, and now the checked property is false. So now we know where to add the current value of each input to application state. Let's start working on that. We will need the state hook, and we will need 3 slices of state. Each slice of state will keep the current value of this input, the current value of this dropdown, and whether the checkbox is checked or not. So for the value of the input, let's call this slice of state fname and get it going. For the initial value of the slice of state, we will simply use the empty string. Now when the change happens to the input, we will take this opportunity to shove the current value of the input into the slice of state by using the set fname function, passing in event target value. If we did this correctly, now any area of the app can have knowledge of the current first name. So let's get a heading going on here. And take it for a drive. That seems to be working. Let's do the same thing for the dropdown. Let's create a slice of state called favvehicle with an initial value of, say, empty string, and take this opportunity here on line 20 to change the slice of state with the value of the target. Let's add some markup that can make use of this slice of state and take this for a drive. That seems to be working. Let's get the dropdown working as well. The dropdown is slightly different. The possible values can be true or false, so let's get a slice of state going called isHappy. Right inside the onChange event, we can do something about saving the happiness to application state by using the setIsHappy function. Except that this time, we're not passing the value of the target, we're passing the checked property of the target. Let's take that for a drive. Use a ternary there. And see if it works. So the name defaults to unknown, the favorite vehicle defaults to unknown, and the mood defaults to unhappy. Let's start changing things. And it seems to be working. And this is how we use the onChange handler to keep track of the state of the form.